we truly had an amazing camp this year. You know, and I also want to thank Los Angeles for all of the national support, you know, and also the SP office, because I actually got a partial scholarship to go to camp this year from the SP office. And, you know, I agree with, I think it was Marcus that said this was his best year. This was truly my best year. I've been going for 4 years, and this was truly my best year. Finally, I feel like I belong at that camp. And the Spirit of God was so evident this year, you know, and, you know, I just thank all my LA staff and campers, because it was just so great, you know, they'd come up and hug me during the week. And Pastor Berman, he has faith, he even let me use his car, because I didn't want to go all the way back to Shiloh. You know, Shiloh's where the worship and the dinner hall is at the other end. And I was losing my legs, and, you know, and so he said, well, use my car. So I said, wow, he has a lot of faith. You know, and I really want to give a shout out to my husband, though. He doesn't go, he gets up early, and he takes me there, he takes me and Chanel there, and he brings us back, you know, and so, you know, so that we won't have to go. So I just want to thank him. And, you know, and we heard about Ann and Mark, and all the staff just made SCP really great. I was just, you know, the friendships, I was a dorm parent, and the friendships I was able to build this year more than ever. It was really nice. I really felt the Spirit of God. But if there's one word I can use to describe camp this year, is breakthrough. You know, and we already heard that, you know, the theme was hero, and, you know, we explained that, you know, you have these superheroes, but Jesus is the ultimate hero, and there's certain attributes that a hero possesses, and I think it was Camille that talked about, well, oh, before that, I was a dorm parent for 7 girls, 6G, and we had 2 counselors, Nadia Peters from Australia, and Megan Stapleton, and they were just wonderful. They worked so well with those girls, and so, you know, going back to the hero, you know, there are certain attributes, and Camille was mentioning that some of the attributes were gratitude, courage, hope, integrity, and vulnerability. And so each day, the campers learned about one of those attributes, and they practiced it, you know, with the intention of taking it back to their areas. And this is where I saw the breakthrough. I really saw the campers getting it. You know, I noticed the girls, you know, in my dorm, and just the campers all together, because, you know, as Ms. D was saying, that, you know, the kids would come up and take your plate, you know, and so I really saw them getting it. I saw the girls in 6G, how they were showing, I saw gratitude, courage, integrity, vulnerability just exemplified in them. You know, and again, not just in them. You know, there were a couple of girls that was so funny. When they first came to camp, the first day, all they cared about was their hair. They went swimming, and they're like, oh, how does my hair look? They wanted to rush back to the dorm before they went to the next activity, because they had to look good for the next activity, and we were like, wow, you know. But by the end of camp, I saw that focus shift off themselves and to the things of God, to the care of their dorm mates. So that was just really great, you know. And another thing that I really liked this year for the junior campus, it was the worship and the setup in the worship hall. You see, there were 8 different stations or centers in the worship hall. There were 4 for the girls and the same 4 for the boys. And at each center, and I think Camille alluded to that, at each center they had a specific activity. If you've been in school, you know those activity centers where you do something else, something different at each center. And of course, each center was named after the place of solitude for these superhero characters, like Batcave, Fortress of Solitude. I can't remember the other 2. Hall of Justice, and what was the third and fourth one? I don't remember, but that's the place that these superheroes go, you know, for their place of solitude. And I was at Batcave, and so was Pastor Bernie actually for the boys. I was for the girls, and he was for the boys. And so this is where I saw, you know, those kids really thought about, at my station they had to write. They learned journaling. And so they had to write, like the first day they had to write about a time that they were grateful that God had done something, and they had to write, you know, write it down. And then the next day they had to write it first. So at my station they were doing a lot of writing. And like say the hall of, the fortress of solitude. They would learn to meditate. So they learned these disciplines, which I thought was really great. You know, and so it was a very good teaching tool for them. But what I really liked about that too, something really valuable that came out of that for me was I got to know these kids. You know, and some of them come from broken homes and the broken lives. And like the first day, there was one girl when we were writing about gratitude. She said, you know, this is very hard for me. She said because she was 13 years old. She's actually a little bit older for a junior, but it was her first year, so they put her in the juniors. And she said, I used to believe in God, but I don't believe anymore because so many bad things happened to me and I had to be taken out of my home. How can there be a God? Broke my heart, you know? And so she had also shared that with a number of other people. And we had a prayer team on camp, a husband and wife team. And that night, you know, she was brought up in that prayer session and we prayed for that little girl. And you know, so the next day, the message was on trusting God, having the courage to trust God through the bad things. And as David would say, Pastor Mike shared about how he lost his brother and he lost his mother, but having that courage to still trust God through the difficult times. You know, so on day 2, he spoke on that message, and then they had to write a prayer. And one little girl, they had to write a prayer, I think it was a prayer of God's presence. But there's another little girl, she said to me, the only prayer I can think of is a prayer for my brother. My brother is 15 years old, and he is in jail. And you know what I want him to do when he goes to court? I want him to tell the truth so that God can help him, you know? And then the third day, another little girl, they had to write another prayer, but this was a prayer for somebody. And she said, I want to pray for my grandma, because my grandma is on way too much medication. You know, she has all these illnesses, she's on way, you know, so I was like, wow, you know, and on the third day also, I talked to that first little girl who said she didn't believe in God, and I asked her how she was doing, and she said, I'm getting it. She says, I am starting to get it, that even though bad things happen, there is a God. So, yeah. So, I just wanted to share these stories because so that you too can pray for these kids at camp. And not only, you know, camp is not just a fun place where it is. You know, I made so many friends, you know, it's great, the food, you know, it is great. But it is also a place where these lives are molded and shaped, you know, so that these young lives can be strong, as it says, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. And that's what it says in Ephesians 6:10. So that's what I wanted to, that was my takeaway from camp.